of the working age female population. We are all aware that India, on the face of relatively high economic growth, has been experiencing declining female labor force participation rate since 2004-5 till the recent time. No wonder it makes an interesting case study for researchers. According to World Bank reports 2017, India was the third lowest FLFPR among other countries. Presently, Indian FLFPR is way below the global average of 45%, which according to Chaudhary 2021 is the lowest in South Asia, thus reconfirming its precarious state. The basic question that has surfaced again and again, even after achieving fertility decline, reduction in gender-based inequality.
Shamantha,
Yes, sir.
make it full screen. I think it is not full screen.
I'm sharing in a full screen, sir. Is it not showing?
It is not full.
Please put it in presentation view.
Presentation view, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, slideshow or something like that. Yeah.
Yes, it's in the slideshow mode actually.
Okay.
For us, it's not like that. And have you changed the slide because the screen is stuck on the very first slide, your introductory slide?
Okay.
Okay, but actually I have moved on. Is it not following the?
No, it is not moving. That's
okay.
No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it better now?
No.
Oh.
I think you should click the resume the slideshow. Okay, now it's visible. Now you have gone to the second slide. Okay.
Okay. The basic question that has surfaced again and again, even after achieving reduction in gender-based inequality, improved education access for women, and increased returns from education, why are such huge number of working women withdrawing from the labor force? Indian FLFPR has declined from 42.7% to 23.3% between 2004-5 and 2017-18. However, the recent PLFS 2018-19 and 19-20 have recorded certain improvements on rural FLFPR, but those facts are debated by researchers. In our paper, we have used 3 rounds, namely 50th, 61st, and 68th of NSSO EUS and the PLFS 2017-18 data for the empirical analysis. A large number of researchers have tried to analyze the peculiar phenomenon by establishing a U-shaped or J-shaped relationship between women's FLFPR and their education levels, like Olson Mehta 2006, Abraham 2013, and Klassen Peters 2015. The famous U hypothesis, as it being proposed by Goldie in 1994, suggests that women with higher education have greater chances of getting employed, and higher household incomes often prevent women from joining the labor force. At the initial level, educational attainment leads to the decline of LFPR, but over time, those women with high education re-enters the labor market, thus forming a new shape, where the low and high levels of education have high FLFPR with a flat middle section for the moderately educated females. That is being shown in figure 1. Now moving on to the next slide. As we have mentioned previously, most of the studies focus on the primary question: what are the reasons for such consistent decline in female labor force? Based on research papers, working papers, and theories till date, the factors affecting FLFPR are broadly categorized into 2 types. One is the supply side factors, which includes labor supply, women's education, household income, marital status, fertility rates, social constraints. And the second one is the demand side factors, which incorporates labor demand, market wages, labor market flexibility, formal market jobs, state infrastructure, and structural change. However, we are dealing mainly with the supply side factors here, and this slide shows the broadly grouped opinions. The primary causes affecting the FLFPR are education effect, income effect, and other factors. The last one being an umbrella term for the interplay of issues like caste, religion, and region-specific conditions. Now, coming to the education effect, Rangarajan et al. 2011 had pointed out that rural women's share for enrollment has increased, which has caused the decline in FLFPR. According to their estimate, between 2004-5 and 2019, about 137 million women registered for education out of the total 313 million candidates. During this time, 21 million women workers withdrew themselves from the labor market, which strengthens the ground for the education effect. Women with little or no education are generally poor and cannot afford to remain unemployed, while women with university degrees are generally from well-off backgrounds and are employed in white-collar jobs, which is according to the findings by Klassen and Peters 2015. So with the rise in education, women gradually drop out from the labor force. Many of the studies have either documented or just concluded about the positive or negative relationship between education and female employment, but as Chatterjee et al. 2018 rightly commented, none has tried to empirically establish the U hypothesis. So we have taken up this as one of our primary objectives. Now moving to the second factor, which is the income effect. In rural areas, absence of working women in the family is considered as an insignia of high status and repute for the family in the society. Similarly, the presence of working women in the household might be seen as a sign of economic hardship due to the prevailing cultural and social norms. Naturally, this discourages preference for women joining the labor force, according to researchers like Atanasio Lowe and Sanchez Marcos 2005 and Lahoti Swan Swaminathan 2013. However, in the periods of economic hardship, rural women are often compelled to join the labor force to support the household income. It happened in India between 1999 and 2005, when India was facing a growth as well as an income crisis. The increase of FLFPR was basically distress driven at that time, according to Abraham, Choudhury, Himanshu, and other researchers. As FLFPR rose even for women who are aged above 60 years. However, with the rise in household income, women's withdrawal may be voluntary or involuntary, depending upon their domestic burden. According to researchers Olsen Mehta, the income effect leads to housewifization process in the rural sector. Now, coming to the other factors, apart from education and income, there are other factors which have been cited in the literature as explanation for falling FLFPR. Studies like Mazumdar and Neetha 2011, Thomas 2012, and Desai 2018 have mentioned that NSSO often fails to capture the broad range of female activities. Women's household duties and other domestic activities are not regarded as work under NSSO framework. Apart from this, social stigmas also play a key role. In India, cultural and societal influences express themselves through three factors: caste, religion, and state zone, or the regional characteristics. The interplay of these factors confine the women in household duties and prevents their participation to outside economic activities. Now, based on the research gaps, we have obtained the following research objectives. Number one, to empirically analyze the U hypothesis, that is to analyze the effect of education on FLFPR using both descriptive statistics and regression. Number two is measuring the income effect, that is to measure empirically whether the economic class from which a women worker hails actually affect her LFPR or not. We have analyzed the income effect for both rural and urban sectors, and the last objective being the empirical analysis of FLFPR across social groups, religions, marital status, and state zones of India. Now, moving to our key findings. As per Chatterjee et al. 2018, most studies note the U-shaped relationship, but usually fail to take the next step to explain it empirically. We have tried to analyze the relationship by plotting the rural FLFPR calculations across the monthly per capita expenditure deciles, which stands as a proxy of the household income in NSS data. It clearly shows the declining trend of female labor force over the 3 rounds of NSS data, 50th, 61st, and 68th, and the PLFS 2017-18. Now, plotting the rural and urban FLFPR across household MPC clearly shows some interesting patterns apart from the declining trend. And what are those? Previously explained by the researchers that the 50th round of NSSO, the FLFPR percentages were more or less the same for each level of MPC deciles. The next round, that is the 61st round, have shown an interesting trajectory. According to Abraham 2009, there was a rise or spurt in employment growth between 1999-2000 and 2004-5, which happened because of agricultural sector crisis. From our findings, between 1993-94 and 2004-5, FLFPR rose from 33.41% to 42.61% for the first decile and 33.4% to 35.19% for the second decile, respectively. It remained more or less same for the third decile, but showed a decline fourth decile onwards. So we can say that the distress-driven employment affected only the first two lower deciles. Those households perhaps employed their family members in the labor force for securing sustainable income, as it is shown in figure 2. Figure 3 shows the urban FLFPR percentages across MPC deciles, which also traces the declining trend. Now moving on to the next slide. Figure 4 shows the rural FLFPR percentages across educational level, 3 rounds. For this analysis, data of year 2004-5 and onwards is used, since the coding pattern of 1993-94 was changed subsequently by the NSSO. The empirical finding satisfies the argument that higher education enables women to find suitable employment. Between 2004-5 and 2017-18, illiterate women's LFPR has declined from 39.2% to 22.24% for rural areas, and from 20.1% to 15% for the urban, shown in figure 5. The only exception being the postgraduate degree holders. Their LFPR share rose from 42.2% to 49.2%. For urban areas, this increasing percentage share has been observed for both graduate and postgraduate degree holders. Thus, an U-shaped relationship, although not an exact one, can be found between FLFPR and women's education level from the descriptive statistics. Now, figure 6 and figure 7 shows rural FLFPR and urban FLFPR percentages across marital status respectively. Throughout the entire marital categories, the rural FLFPR has declined between 1993-94 and 2017-18, with a slight increase in the mid phase during 2004-5. The never married category have accounted for the lowest FLFPR over the years as expected. But for urban area, the trend is a bit different. Those who are in the never married category have slightly increased their LFPR percentage 2017-18 compared to the previous rounds. Same for the divorced and separated women, while married women experience a decline compared to its 1993-94 level. The last one of the descriptive statistics panel, that rural FLFPR across religions, it can be seen that over time for each of the religious class, the FLFPR has declined, and it brings the same trend from the severe condition of female labor force in rural India. The percentage share of others category, although may mislead one, but actually the population itself was very small. Figure 9 sums up the rural FLFPR across social groups. Here also it reflects the steady decline of FLFPR across all the social groups. The situation is same for the urban sector, so the graph is not shown here. Now we move on to the regression analysis. Till the previous section, we have shown the basic statistics findings, but those estimates can be counter-verified or rejected once they are calculated along with some control variables. Using the models by Bodia Das and Zumbai 2017, Mon 2000, Klassen and Peters 2013. For the construction of the regression analysis, we choose the logistic regression model, which is shown in the slide, and where yi is the dependent binary variable, xi is the independent variable, and epsilon I is the error term. The dependent variable stands for that if yi equals to 1, then the female is in the labor force, and yi equals to 0, then female is not in the labor force. The variable x1i represents the MPC deciles, indicating household income status, and x2i represents the other variables for individual and household that we control for. It incorporates women's educational attainment, household type, religion, social group, state zone, and marital status. Now, figure 10 shows the predicted probabilities of rural female participating in the labor market. It traces nearly an U shape for each round of data. Thus, the U hypothesis holds in the cross section. But one can easily observe that the U shape is gradually declining over time, except for 2004-5. All the other rounds, the U has fallen for rural sector. At the same time, this indicates that education level is not the only factor affecting the declining female employment. FLFPR has declined for each levels of education. It is the demand side factor which is working here. It may be the lack of job creation, especially the female friendly jobs are inadequate, which may be responsible for this decline. Now coming to the next figure, this shows the predicted probability of urban female participating in the labor market across educational levels. For urban sector, the rising upper end of the shape indicates the advent of white collar jobs among women with university degrees. Figure 12 and figure 13 shows the predicted probability of rural and urban FLF across MPC deciles. Both the sector verifies the income effect. That is, with the rise of household income, the women workers tend to withdraw from the labor force, thus showing a declining trend over the years. However, this decline in the probabilities of rural workforce across MPC deciles is much severe than its urban counterpart. Till figure 13, the findings have shown the cross-sectional estimates of probabilities, but the time effect was not there. So we have constructed a pooled regression by combining all the 4 rounds together while generating a new time dummy. Figure 14 shows the predicted probability of rural-urban FLFPR across time. The estimates of predicted probability with respect to time shows that even when variables like education, MPC deciles, religion, caste, region, etc. are being controlled for, still the probability of women joining the labor force falls steadily with time, both in rural as well as in urban areas. This indicates the fact that merely focusing on the supply side factors will not provide us with the actual causes of the decline of FLFPR over time. Rather, demand side issues, culture and customs, and other factors are also needed to be analyzed to understand the phenomenon better. Now, the concluding slide sums up the inferences. Number one, there is an U-shaped relationship between FLFPR and education. However, the U curve traces downwards with time. Number two, the relationship between FLFPR and MPC deciles is not U-shaped but negative. Even the negative shaped curve shifts down with time. Number three, the literature review has highlighted about sudden rise in FLFPR during 2004-5, but our results from the empirical analysis show that the effect was not all pervasive. And lastly, the results from the predicted probability from individual years logistic regressions as well as pooled regression indicate towards a demand side problem, which is yet to be approached. This is the select bibliography. Thank you.
Shamadak, you had 5 more minutes, so if you wanted to add any further points, then you can. Otherwise, we will move on to the next session.
Yes, I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, then. So thank you, Shamadak, for the lucid presentation. I will give my concluding comments at the end of the session. Okay. Next paper is presented by Sajeesh PV, research scholar at the St. Thomas College, Thrissur, and Sabu PJ, assistant professor, Department of Economics, St. Thomas College, Thrissur. The paper is titled Role of Women for Promoting Organic Farming Through Kudumbashree Missions, a case study of Adat Grama Panchayat in Thrissur. They have examined the impact made by women in organic farming in Adat Grama Panchayat, Thrissur. Their study used both primary and secondary sources of data, and they have employed both quantitative and qualitative approaches to analyze the data. The main two objectives of their study are to analyze the productivity and profitability of selected organic farms and to analyze the various problems faced by women organic farmers in selected districts in Kerala. So I invite Sajeesh for the presentation. You will have maximum of 20 minutes. Sajeesh, are you there? I think Sajeesh has joined and his name is listed. Sajeesh, can you unmute, please? Sajeesh, sorry, but you are not audible. Can you please unmute?
Can you hear now?
Yes, you're audible now.
Okay. A sweet good afternoon to all. Myself, I am Sajeesh PV, a research scholar in St. Thomas College, Thrissur. It is a campaign paper with my research guide, Dr. Sabu PJ, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, St. Thomas College, Thrissur. Okay, a sweet welcome to all this seminar. My topic is of women promoting organic farming through Kudumbashree Mission, a case study of Adat Grama Panchayat in Thrissur district. It is a pure case study to find out the role of the women for becoming
Sajeesh, sorry, but your audio is breaking. I think there is some issue with your connection. So,
sir, can you hear now? Can you hear now?
It's still breaking. Please continue. I will inform you.
Here we have some messages on that.
Can you continue?
The topic is all women for promoting organic farming through Kudumbashree Mission, a case study of Adat Grama Panchayat in Thrissur districts. Especially in Kerala belongs to the many of the rural areas. In this rural development is only focused to the development of the entire state. By developing the rural areas, for the development of the rural areas, women playing a key role for the development. So I identify this topic for the study. That is the promoting organic farming. The next slide, the need and importance of the study. It is a area related to the agricultural economics. So that is the growth and sustainability of the environment. Second is the role of women for creating the employment opportunities in the rural area. The third is that group effort of the women. Why? This clearly indicate that the group effort of the woman will make a great potential in the agricultural sector. In this particular panchayat, 5 Kudumbashree units are functioning under the organic farming units, nearly 4,000 hectares area under the paddy cultivations. Fourth one is the feasibility of organic farming. The organic farming is the main motto of the organic farming is that to providing the quality food for reducing the pesticides consumption. That is the first is the lack of knowledge regarding the ecological balance. The conventional farming methods reduce the ecological balance and it will negatively affect the human beings and the society. The finally, therefore, every job has become a profit motive, as like the organic farming has become a profit motive. The two objectives under the significance of the study and various reviews are conducted. It is identified the two objectives to analyze the productivity and profitability of selected organic farms. So we have the 4 organic farms are selected under this Grama Panchayat. To analyze the second objective is that to analyze the various problems faced by the women organic farmers in selected districts. So that is there are so many problems faced by the women organic farmers to compare the men farmers. So the accessibility, the drainaging problems and other problems that will be discussed in detail. The methodology adopted, the primary and secondary data are used for the study. The primary data as per the collected from this concerned panchayat, as per the direction from the Kerala Agricultural University Research Cell and the various NGOs suggested that Adata Grama Panchayat was the most established panchayat in organic farming in Thrissur districts. That's why this panchayat is selected for the study. The 4 Kudumbashree units are selected by using the simple random method. The second data are collected from the books, journal, Panchayat Development Report, Kudumbashree Annual Report of this panchayat. The tools adopted, the simple statistical tools like percentage, average, and all other tools, and the technical efficiency is used to assuring the productivity of the farms. There are the 4 principles related to the organic agriculture. That is the principle of health. Second one is that the principle of ecology, the principle of fairness, and the principle of care. The principle of the health was the most ultimate aim of the panchayat to provide to ensuring the quality of the products to keeping the status quo of the best status quo of the health in the panchayat. Second one is that the principle of ecology. The principle of ecology, it is highlighted that during the conversion period from the conventional method to the organic methods, there may be some stigma in the ecological balance that will create an imbalance in the society and the cultivating farms. So maintaining the balance was the ultimate aim of the principle of the ecology. The principle of fairness and the principle of the care. That was the 4 basic principles related to the organic farms. Though first one objective of the study is that the problem faced by the organic farmers in Kerala, especially it is a generalized fact, that is the output marketing problems, the shortage of biomass, high input cost, marketing problem of organic inputs, absence of appropriate agricultural policy, lack of financial support, low yield during, especially in the conventional period from the conventional farming to the organic farming, inability to meet the export demand because the organic productions are morely concentrated on by converting the finished products into the exports market. So our production is become gradually low, that is not able to fulfill the adequate export demand. Vested interest, the lack of quality standards for the biomass, improper accounting methods adopted by the local self-governments and the political and other social factors. These are the common factors affected by the organic farmers. it is a second objective is that the product to measuring the productivity and profitability of the organic farms. So that is the total output comparison of the selected farm from the 2015-60 to 2019-20. It is clearly shows that the output of the farm was increasing, but it shows that it is increasing at a diminishing trend, not it increasing at an increasing rate. So the total input share is that, and the total factor output, that is the total output divided by the total input. The total output, total factor output of the farm shows that a positive trend in the during the period of 2019-20, it was to be 2.92. That means that the farm is organic farm is experiencing a better profit position. That is a clear and indication of in the long run it will become most fruitful. So it is the next slide is a figure shows that input output outlay of the selected farms. The total inputs used by the farms in the last 4 years were the total output. It is in the money terms. There are so many inputs used by the organic farmers to their cultivations. That inputs are prepared by the one of that is understood in the preliminary survey that the most of the inputs are prepared by the organic farmers itself. That's why the cost of the input was reducing. Shows a reducing trend. It is the indication of the total factor output of the selected farms in the trend by shows. It is a shows that a increasing a stigma trend and increasing trend, then it will become decreasing, and finally it is shows an increasing trend. It is a clear indication of organic farming was become fruitful after become a conversion period. The next slide shows that the technical efficiency of the organic farms. It also shows the indication that the efficiency also shows a increasing trend. That is, during the period of the COVID pandemic, for also develop quantum of output. The main problem is that it was mapping of their problems, their products, their products the god. That was the main dilemma faced by the organic farmers in the during the pandemic times. Comparison of the different constraints in the promotion of organic farming based on the average mean. These are the 7 group of constraints out of the 28 constraints identified in the preliminary survey by organic farmers. It should be incorporated ahead of the 7 ones. But social constraint, personal constraints, ecological constraints, technological constraints, and economic constraints, certification constraints, and marketing constraints. Out of these 7, the major constraints faced by the women organic farmers are the marketing constraints. The women are become very hardworking. They are providing their potential to increasing the total output, but due to some technical assistance, they are reduced their marketing to capture the market. That is the main constraints faced by the main rank of this, that 978. That next one is that the certification constraints, the availability of the non-availability of the certification agencies in the rural level was the main problem faced by the women organic farmers. The certification centers was only available at the district level or the state level. So the incorporations of this was the main. The economic constraints. The economic constraints was the Kudumbashree was made by arranging the rural credit. Small savings methods adopted by the Kudumbashree units will focus to this, reducing the problem of the economic constraints. The Kudumbashrees can avail simple loan from the Adult Farmers Cooperative Society to make the economic resources for this organic farming. So the unavailability of the proper economic means from the government side, the subsidies from the government side, this was the main dilemma faced by the women organic farmers. The technological constraints, there was no proper technological training provided by the agricultural sector at the grassroots level. That was the main problem faced by the women organic farmers for the creation of the various inputs, organic inputs, and keeping their output become not sterile. The personal constraints, the family was the main constraint, was the woman as a woman organic farmer, because the woman become the backbone of the family. That's why they want to spend much more time in the family, not rather than in the farm. So it was the main personal constraint. And some many experienced farmers are old-aged farmers. Their health conscious is also become another personal dilemma that is experienced by the women organic farmers. The lack of support from the house, other political parties, because there are orally they can give many instructions, but not recordically they are not provide anything. The social constraint, our society are being interested to consume the organic goods, but the price of the organic goods are higher than the conventional goods. So the non-demand in the local market, that was the another constraint faced by the women organic farmers. Next slide is a clear exhibition of the total output comparison of the selected farms. There are the 4 farms. It was in the period from the 2015-16 to 2019-20. All the farms showing a positive trend, but in the farm 4 was experiencing most profit-oriented one. Because of that, they can adopt the new technological interventions by attending the trainings introduced by the Kerala Agricultural Universities. The major finding of the study is that income of the individual and family are the prime indicators, and the socio-economic status of the individual. The 200 sample organic farmers are selected. The 24% of the sample respondents are belonging to the lower income group. So, and 25.5% of the sample respondents belonging to the average income group. That was the main constraint to something add to their financial values. The farmer experiencing the loss in the agricultural production, rupees 21,892. It was in the conventional period of that particular farm. The conventional period, it shows a trend that organic farming shows a decline profit in the conventional period. The total factor productivity that is already discussed in the diagrams itself, it has no. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sachi. We had 4 more minutes remaining. So would you like to add some points, or can we continue?
Everything I should be included in it. It is a micro level study. It is a study. The data mainly collected with primary investigations. That's why it's over.
Okay, thank you. So we are moving on to the last presentation. It's by Muniraj K and Sridhar JS. Both are from the Department of Economics, University of Kerala, and their paper is titled Nature and Reasons of Exploitation of Female Workforce, a case study on women tea plantation workers of KDHP company in Munnar. Their study explores how gender as a category helped the capitalists to further the exploitation of the laboring classes in the tea producing industry. Their study uses both primary and secondary data and focuses on a case study of KDHP company workers selected through simple random sampling method. They have employed a pre-prepared interview schedule in the process of data collection. There are twin objectives of the study: to analyze the livelihood of women tea plantation workers and to understand the nature of exploitation of female labor force and its socio-economic reasons. So I invite Muniraj K for the presentation. You have the next 20 minutes. Yes, you are audible. You can start the presentation.
Yeah, this is slide presentation. So screen visible?
Yes, the screen is visible.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, start now. Respected Siddiq sir and my dear students. So this paper will join Srijit Reyes, Infant Scholar, Department of Economics. So my topic is the nature and reason of exploitation of female workforce, a case study on women tea plantation workers of KDHP company in Munnar. So as we know that tea is the one of the most favored beverage in the world next to the water. It is the significant agro-based industries in India in terms of employment generations. So, my topic is the nature and reason of exploitation of female workforce. In KDHP company, so that women they are living as women, they are living as workers, they are living Dalit. So my introduction part. The tea plantation workers are one among the most marginalized sector in India. Widespread growth of plantation industries in India happened at the time of British rule. Huge capital investment has made by the British East India Company in the plantation industries in India. And tea production has the commercialized. The colonialism and hierarchical system that were pillar of the initial development of Indian plantation sector remain inexorably tied to the practice of tea plantation as is the manifesto today. The plantation followed the rigid hierarchy of authority in descending order of power from managing director to workers. Then the extent of the power hierarchy of this kind in the process of production is a unique characteristic of cultivation of tea, while the process of large scale cultivation of other agriculture crop in India like rice and wheat has organized with the feudal production relations. That is the labor-intensive industries with a significant proportion of female workforce. The plantation workers are often exposed to serve a degree of exploitations. So my statement of the problem, the well-defined power hierarchy of tea estate function as a tool of systematic exploitation of tea plantation workers. The study is trying to find out how gender as category help the capitalist in furthermore serve exploitation of the laboring class in the tea producing industries. An attempt to has been made interrelated to gender role women workers in the production process and whole. Men and women in the tea production society is more or less equally exploited by the company, and women and men in the workplace are equally suffering from the working environment. She is exploited as the labor and the company is more served than her suffering that comes from the patriarchal social setup. So the fight against the patriarchal domination seeks secondary among the women tea plantation workers. Women workers constitute half of the total tea plantation workers. And also the women are the section of labor force that are severely exploited by the capitalist production process. Thus issues faced by women in the working environment is taken into consideration in this study. So my objective, there are two objectives. The first objective to analyze the livelihood of women tea plantation workers. My second objective to understand the nature of exploitation of female labor force and its socio-economic reasons. Then area of study, the area of study or tea estate and the Kanandevan Hills Plantation Limited. Out of the 7 estate, the 5 estate has selected for the study due to time constraint. These include Chenduvara Estate, Kodaravala Estate, Matupatti Estate, Nalladani Estate, Naimakad Estate, So the methodology they study based on both primary and secondary data to make a simple analysis of a problem. One company was selected through simple random company sampling method from the workers sample of 90 respondents were randomly selected. So data collected using the pre-prepared interview study. Secondary data was also used for this study. So the general character to the analysis chapter, the general characteristic of respondents. So most of the respondents are the table shows that 6.6% of the respondents belong to 28 to 33 years age group. Then 21.1% of the respondents belong to the 34 to 39 years age group. Then 27.7% of respondents belong to the 14 year to 51 years. Then age group, 25.7% of respondents belong to the 56 to 51 years age group, and 25.7 respondents belong to 51 to 58-year age group. Simply that majority of sample plantation women workers belong to 40 and 45 years age group. Then community status is most women workers are SC community. There are 77.7% of the SC community in the women workers in the Kanandevan Hills plantation. So the OBC community belongs to 16% belong to the OBC community. Then so general category only 1% of people, women workers are in the tea plantation sector. The category of household, the category of household APL household, the 57.7% of majority of the tea plantation workers in the women. So the language spoken, like they are migrant workers from Tamil Nadu, so they are followed speaking in Tamil. Then the working condition of women tea plantation workers, the nature of the employment, category of employment, number of services, wage, union membership, hours of per day. The nature of the employment, the permanent worker or temporary workers. The permanent workers, some majority of workers in the plantation sector. Then category of employment, the field employment, the majority 94.4% of field employment. Then factory employment, the 5.5% of the category of factory employment. The number of services, 25-30 years, so the working in the tea plantation. So more than 66% of the workers are 25-30 years working in the service area. Wage are regularly monthly wage, so 5,000 something wages are 100%. So the union membership, so all workers membership, 96.6% of your union membership relation with the trade unions. Then the hours of per day working is the women are 9 hours per day working in the analysis chapters. The problem of faced by the women workers, low wage, work pressure, burden of workers. So the number of workers, 90 workers or respondents are workers are low wages, or work pressures 1% or 1.1% of work pressure, women said. Then burden of workers 94.4% of the respondents are work burden. Then the last years, the Pombalai Brimai, the term like woman is unity. So the women have been protesting, angered by the 10% bonus they got from the Kanandevan Hills plantation. We want to 20% of bonus and our daily wages to be increased to Rs for 500. Set the protest. The women are presently only paid 230 as daily wages in 2015. So the today present the salary as 426.6% daily wages currently. Then availability of equipment and training facilities is very low. The average responses are 94.4% of respondents availability of equipment. Training facilities are very poor. The responses are 98% or training facilities are very poor. Then additional benefit are received the tea plantation workers, but the leave with the wage, provident fund, family pension, maternity leave, bonus percentage, salary of work, they are giving, but the sufficient level of wage and benefit. So the income and the equal expenditure, it's a monthly benefit. So the company provided for the substance level of wages. Then education qualification. So the 4.4% of women workers are illiterate, and 33.3% of the women workers are illiterate. Most of them have primary education class 1 to class 5 of women workers. 18.8% of have below SLC class 5 to class 9. 31.1% of women workers have SLC. Some of the workers, 10% have obtained higher education. Established that majority of tea plantation workers are illiterate in the sense that they have obtained basic minimum level of education. Then nature of health problem and treatment sources. So the 34 of women workers suffered from some kind of health problem, and 66% of the respondents are free from the health problem. Then the women workers identified different health problem they suffer due to the working condition. Almost all of them 87.8% mentioned that they had the member of health problem like headache, body pain, and back pain, stiffness in the neck. These conditions are prevalent as the work require a long hour of standing and carrying of heavy load of long distance. Then treatment mode of the more than half of the women workers, 58.2% of the free medical service provided to estate workers by the plantation hospital run by data group. About 25.8% of the women workers respond that they consult private health service provider. The critical situation, only 60.1% of them depends upon the government hospital for health emergency. A vast majority of women workers, 93.3% have health card, and the remaining 6.6% of the respondent does not have any health cards. The saving mode of figures show that 54.4% of women workers have saving, whereas the remaining 45% of the women workers having no saving. The saving of the pattern, like the figure shows that clear that 51% of the women workers are subscribe of saving scheme like GT. 2% of women workers having saving bank account, and only 1% of the saving women workers making saving through a post office saving bank, and 46% of women workers having no saving. So major the findings, the very important findings. So like a story, காடுண்டு வீடுண்டு மற்றபடி மூணாருக்கு தான் நாங்க போவோம், goes to the field, come back home, otherwise it's Munnar by we go. Munnar town is the imagination is centrally located with the different road running into Munnar, making it easily accessible. Kanandevan Hills Plantation consists of 36 estates in Munnar alone. Each estate divided into 3-5 division. The plantation follow rigid hierarchy of authority. The descending order of power: manager, director, regional manager, group manager, manager, superintendent, field officer, supervisor, workers. Furthermore, within each division, there is a high manager, assistant manager, 4 field officer, and 5 supervisor. Again, the descending order of power. Then the mobility within the hierarchy is nearly impossible. Authority position are selected based on educational attainment level. This quickly disqualified almost all plantation workers. In large part of due to the education system, KDHP provide for the workers, and those the position of authority tend to be filled by those outside the plantation community. What is more, women are not eligible for position more senior than supervisor. Presently, there is only 1-2 women are employed as a supervisor. I think that last 2 years, I think that's women employment or supervisor position, like said the Kangani, like supervisor. Then typically day for KDHP labor differ totally by the gender. The division is largely defined by the task given to men versus women. Men workers half day from 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and are responsible for chemical management, spraying down the tea plants with the pesticides, and factory production, overseeing the mechanized process of separating the tea leaves into black, white and green tea. Women workers are responsible for all of the plantation field work, and they hand bulk tea leaves for at least 9 hours every day. Then they are suffering from a heavy they are suffering from the heavy work burden, body pain, headache, back pain, stiffness in the neck and leg pain. Each woman has to pick at least 21 kilogram of tea leaves every day. Women should bulk more than the target of 21 kilogram per day to the eligible for the extra compensation. The kilo to rupee ration varies year to year, but at the present, 1 additional kilogram is equal to 1 additional rupee. The day consists of her walking up at 5 a.m., walking anywhere from 1-3 kilometer from home in order to reach work by 7:45 a.m. and 1 hour lunch break from 12:30 to 1:30. This is more often than not enough time to walk home, eat lunch, and return to her work site, and after afternoon of the continued field work until 5 p.m. This course does not include the additional hours many women spend in the field in order to make ends meet for the families. Once she arrived at the home, the domestic workers begin, in addition to fixing dinner for her family, after 5 to 7 people per 28 housing unit. She is the responsible for fetching water, childcare, and various other household chores, plantation labors, works Monday and Saturday. The majority women workers are subscribed of saving like Chitty. Though I conclude the paper, the majority of workers is tea plantation of Munnar are success of first generation migrant from Tamil Nadu, and most of them have low educational attainment because of which the employment mobility remains stagnant. In case of working condition, it is found that long hours of physical labor without a compensate wage are the main issues faced by the workers in this sector. How there is exceed visible gender segregation of workers within the plantation. Women workers are overburdened in terms of hours and nature of workers. Most of workers, both men and women, suffer from the occupational morbidities and the healthcare facilities provided to them by the management seems forward from adequate. Wage of tea plantation workers is only around as already said for 24.6 daily wages, whereas wage of agriculture labor in all other dropping much higher than the wage of the tea plantation workers. This disparity in wage show the degree of exploitation faced by the tea plantation workers. There are several social economic factors that make exploitation of female workforce possible easy in the reality. The women tea plantation workers are easily exposed to a certain degree of exploitation because of the nature of the organization of the labor force. They are very weakly organized and left with no bargaining power. Since these women workers are left with nearly 0 hours of leisure government program of social upliftment of women like Kudumasri and form of self-help group are nearly absent among female women tea plantation workers. Such collective effort will ameliorate the working condition and livelihood prospect of women plantation workers, and it will also enhance the equality and production of labor force. Thank you.
Thank you, Muniraj. You concluded just on the right time, and your paper was a very good reflection of the ground realities and the plight faced by tea plantation workers. So, okay, with that, we have reached the end of the first phase of the session. And in the past moments, we have got a gist of 3 very scholarly works. The very first paper was on female labor force participation in India. They came up with some very interesting conclusions. They found that there exists a U-shaped relation between FLFPR, that is the female labor force participation rate, and education, and with the U curve showing a tendency of temporal downshift. While the relation between FLFPR and MPC was not found to be U-shaped, but rather negative, again, it exhibits a tendency to shift downwards with time. They also proved with regression results that the rise in FLFPR during 2004-5 period was not due to a distress-driven employment in agriculture sector as it was previously believed. And the second paper, which was on the role of women in promoting organic farming, observed that though there are a plethora of central and state sector schemes to encourage organic farming, full benefits can be reaped from these only through proper implementation at the grassroots level. And for the same, the government must generate awareness among both producers as well as the consumers of organic products. They recommended that the government provide financial support to organic farmers during transitional period to help them sustain their livelihoods. Also, steps must be taken to ensure the availability of quality organic manure, creation of networks of organic farmers, groups of experts, etc. Finally, we had the paper by Muniraj on nature and reasons of exploitation of female workforce. And in this case study, they detailed the deplorable working conditions of plantation workers, entailing long hours of physical labor without commensurable wages. They found that women workers are especially overburdened in terms of hours and nature of work. The wages of plantation workers were much below that of their other counterparts. The main reasons behind the exploitation faced by plantation workers include, as found by them, lack of organizational and bargaining power, absence of SHGs among them, lack of proper government schemes, and low educational attainments leading to stagnant employment mobility. So moving on. Now the floor is open for questions. Participants are welcome to raise their doubts, ask for POIs, post objections on their conclusions as you may like. But before you do so, please make sure that your questions are to the point, relevant, unambiguous, and brief. You can either unmute or raise your questions in the chat box. So participants, please do make best use of the opportunity. You can either make comments on what you have just heard, or you can raise your doubts regarding the papers. We have ample time left, so don't feel shy to raise your questions. Okay, in the meantime, I have a question, or I have a comment rather, to Shamantak. Shamantak, in your paper, you talked about that due to education, the female labor force participation rate actually declines, and it then bounces back. Do you think that in case of this, there is a feedback effect operating? Feedback effect in the sense that you can say that some women get access to primary education and others very rarely get opportunity to pursue higher education. So the case is that there are several reports coming out, or there are several newspaper articles that have led claiming that in the case where the very first member of the family, the eldest female member, when she gets education, primary education in this case, then it creates a sort of financial burden for the family, and the net effect is that the later on the
siblings,
the siblings, they don't tend to get education. They are forced to work. They are engaged in child labor, and a different pattern is seen in the case of higher education as well, because women who do get higher education, but they face some forms of structural or some frictional unemployment. So they face a different sort of unemployment scenario, and there's a greater financial burden on the family, and fearing that again the siblings are not getting a chance to educate. So is there a feedback effect operating, and if so, what are the ways in which this feedback effect can be eliminated? For example, the government can provide, or government can go for some schemes in which the first generation female learners are given some opportunity in employment, or they are given some assistance or some scholarships. So what's your comment on that?
That's a very good comment, actually. But there's the other side of the story, is that once the elder daughter of a family gets educated, there happens scenario that depending on her academic pursuit or her educational attainment, her job prospect gets changed. And in most of the cases, there's an inadequate supply of female-friendly jobs, or the job she is expecting of her educational attainment. So in many cases, she had no way but to stay at home, to take up the domestic burdens, even take care of her siblings. That is also another part of the story. You are right that the feedback effect operates here, though we have not focused on that issue in our paper. But yet, yes, there is room for development, room for improvement. Yes, you are right.
Okay, thank you, Shamandak. And do you have some comments to raise about the fellow presenters as well, their papers? You can use this opportunity.
Yes, it's a wonderful presentation, and it was a wonderful session, especially the papers which followed. The last one was a case study, and it's very rare to come across such deep and extensive case studies these days. The second one was also very serious. So no as such comment. I enjoyed the presentation. That's it.
Okay, then moving on to Sajeev, I have a question for you. But for the audience, do feel free to interject that as in any moment that you like. You can raise your questions whenever you want. I'm asking the questions in the meantime. So Sajeev,
I have a question to Shamantak, sir.
Okay, Parvati.
Okay. My question is related to the pandemic. So we know that this pandemic has been a wake-up call. It shows that women are the backbone of the country. The pandemic has reflected upon the crucial role of women in the country. So we know that women has been prominent in the health sector, even in childcare work, in teaching, even in personal works like domestic cleaning and everything. But recent data has shown that from the pandemic, to be more precise, 1 out of 4 women has become unemployed. So it has led to higher unemployment losses for women than compared to men. So what are the reasons behind this, and what could we have done differently to prevent this disparity?
Right, that's a good question. Several papers have also come up on these issues, actually. Most of the papers which have focused that the the sacking of the women workers are mostly happening because the facility or the service that the company has to provide to those workers because of the maternity leave and all other factors. The companies are deciding, although it's a partial policy making, but they are deciding that it's easier for them to hire male employees than female right at this point of time when they are getting affected by the financial loss due to the outbreak of pandemic. So that can serve as one reason because the companies are sacking women workers. And the economists have already termed it as cessation, as making a rhythmic rhyme replica of recession, that the women workers are getting sacked out of their jobs. So there are several papers which have come up in the recent past year. You can search it.
What do you think could be done to prevent this disparity?
Actually, depending upon the situation, the government have to interfere. Actually, certain policy making and the certain changes in the philanthropic activity should be taken up by the government, and the direct intervention. And the government should spend money. There should be money in people's hands. Otherwise, this economy will crumble. And many states have taken up that step actually. And the sectors like female-friendly job creations should be there. The government should make a survey that depending on the skill sets of women. Actually, the urban women workers who are in the white-collar job sector are also suffering a huge burden because they have to look after the elder members of their family and even their children, because that double burden case is always persistent everywhere, irrespective of the rural and the urban sectors. So whether the women are getting sacked from their jobs or losing their jobs, they have to take up the domestic burden. So that is also a matter of great concern. It's affecting their mental as well as their working capabilities. So yes, constructive policy making is necessary at this step.
Thank you, Parvati, for the question. Any more questions from the audience? Shamanda, could you also explain how you actually calculated the income effect, which you mentioned in your analysis?
Oh, yes, I can. I have used extensively the NSSO data sets, NSSO and PLFS data. They do not give the exact income data for the households. And so I have taken up the monthly per capita expenditure, MPCE, and have divided the MPCE in deciles in 10 groups. And the lowest being the lowest income group, and the highest, that is the 10th group, is of the highest category. And I have plotted the FLFPR across those groups to reflect the effect the FLFPR is having across the income category.
Was it based on a correlation between the income levels of the families and what it leads to the participation?
Yes, because the women who are participating in the labor market, it's extremely necessary to analyze from which financial class they are hailing from, because that
But then would there be some problem in estimation? Because is there something called the reverse income effect as well? Because when you come to the urban areas, for middle income families, there might be a reason, a negative, the opposite psychic effect might be there. Because if you're in a middle income family and if you're not sending your wife to work, then society might seem you like you are coming from a very backward standard. So in that psychic sense, is there a sort of reverse income effect operating?
Not that I have delved that in that deep sense, but to keep an eye on this effect, I have considered the marital status for this purpose, because once you are in the urban sector, those who are separated are reflecting high share in FLFPR, which is indicative of the fact that as the women who are separated or are divorced, they have to bear their expenses on their own. So they cannot afford to remain unemployed actually. And that is true for the rural areas as well, because the persistent female labor force participation rate decline is basically in a derelict state in the rural sectors. So my focus was basically on the rural aspect. But yes, you are right that there is a psychic criteria which can be delved further which would enhance this paper. Yes, thank you. I will note this point.
Okay, thank you, Shamantak. I have a comment regarding the paper of Sajesh as well. Sajesh, your paper was titled Role of Women for Promoting Organic Farming Through Kudumbashree Missions. But I felt that you focus more rather on the challenges faced by organic farmers in Kerala, the particular sample that you studied, rather than on the specific role of women played in the promotion of organic farming. So can you please elucidate what within your paper, what have you studied regarding the exact role of women in the promotion of organic farming? Sajesh, are you there? Sajesh? Okay, we will get back to you, Sajesh. And Muniraj, okay, your paper was a case study of the tea plantation workers of KDHP. And in the slides, you also mentioned about the political movements as well as the cooperation, like the Pempalai Urumi in the tea plantation workers. And in the concluding part, you mentioned that it was a lack of bargaining power in the tea plantation workers, which was leading to this persistent exploitation of the workers. But one of the major points raised by the critiques of such labor organizations is that they often tend to be politicized at the end. They get hijacked by political leaders who most often use it for their personal gains and hence for political rise in the political ladder. So to what effect do you think that, taking the case study of Pempalai Urumi as such, do you think that these such labor organizations are very effective in ensuring the rights of workers in raising their minimum wages and protecting their rights?
Pempalai Urumi Samara was the success the last years. So the rising the wage and benefits, the monthly bonus, or women are set in the high, the trade union or the corporate unions for the women trade unions. Then it's trade unions the more powerful where the no women participants. So they are raising the wage. They are raising the wages. Understand?
Okay, they are raising the wage.
Yeah. So very success in the Pempalai Urumi Samaram the last years.
But in the specific sample that you studied, you mentioned that they are not organized into such labor groups. So why is it that these movements have not penetrated into that part of the plantation workers?
So there are the minimum wages. Is the findings are also said, but all benefit are giving the deplantation workers. So provident fund and monthly pensions, maternity leaves, but in sufficient condition of wage and benefits.
And in your presentation, I found that on average, the highest number of people were they had SSLC education, or many were illiterate as well. So there cannot be much transition in terms of occupation that these plantation workers can have. So do you think that formation of self-help groups might be the best solution to at least to a bit end their wars faced by the plantation workers? And if so, then what are the very possibilities that SHGs can be implemented in this sector? Taking into mention that these they are mostly illiterate workers and they can only be employed in such kind of jobs.
So women workers should be educated. So make them aware about the rights and legislative provisions. So the implicit that the majority of tea plantation workers are illiterate in the senses that they have obtained basic minimum qualification.
Thank you, Muniraj.
Yeah, thank you. You understand? I don't know.
Yes, you did make sense. You eliminated my concerns.
Yeah.
So do we have Sajesh? Sajesh, are you there? If not, I have one last question for Shyamantak. Shyamantak, in your results, you mentioned that the rise in FLFPR during 2004-5 was not due to the distress-driven employment that was previously believed in agriculture sector. So, what do you think rather is the reason for that?
I would just want to rectify whether what I said appeared correctly. What I tried to reflect was that there was an agricultural sector crisis, and according to Abraham's paper, Vinod Abraham's paper, 2009 and 2013, there was a spurt in the employment in the rural sector. But our analysis showed that those spurt happened only for the lowest 2 deciles. It was not all pervasive. It didn't happen in the totality of the rural sector, but only in the lowest 2 deciles. The first and the second decile of the income category was affected by that agricultural sector crisis, as they had no way. And so they had to send their family members into the labor force. And even if they are above 60 years of age, and it created a spurt in the employment. So it was not all pervasive. It happened. That is right. what I tried to reflect.
Right. So
hope it clears your confusion.
Yes.
Oh yeah, thank you.
So any more questions from the audience?
I have no question, but I have a comment. Actually, all the 3 papers, in fact, very interesting. I would like to congratulate all the 3 present.
Thank you.
In that sense.
Thank you, sir.
So I am looking forward for publishing the paper. So thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Siddiq, sir. Sajesh, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. That time I have a visitor here. That's why I will miss some time. Have you any questions regarding that session? So I can be okay. Please ask.
Yeah, I just had a comment because Sajesh, in your paper, it was titled "The Role of Women in Promoting Organic Farming." But I just felt that you rather more concentrated on the organic farming sector as such, the crises faced by them, or it was more on a general sense. So can you please elucidate what is the specific role played by women in promotion of organic farming?
Yes, this is a particular study behind in a panchayat. That panchayat consists of nearly 4 organic farming units. That most of the units are functioned by the women organic farmers under the control of the Kudumbashree, under the initiative taken by the Kudumbashree units.
Okay.
So it's a clearly indication that the women play a crucial role in promoting organic farming. Not only in the organic farming, in the agricultural sector, all agricultural and allied activities are morely concentrated in the particular regions are by women.
Okay, I get your point, but in regard to an additional point, because I believe that the reason you chose Adad Grama Panchayat was because it was one of the it was one of the best performers among the organic farming Gram Panchayats. Is that correct?
Yes, surely.
Okay, so
the aim of the panchayat is that to become an organic panchayat nearly in 2022 or 23.
Okay. So my question is that when you selected Adad Grama Panchayat, so when you select the best example of the case, then there might be several factors which might be leading to making it the best example. There might be administrative factors behind it. There might be the role of politicians. There might be several technological, maybe transport sector is very good there. So there might be a bunch of factors that makes Adad Grama Panchayat the best when it comes to organic farming. So when you take the case study of Adad Gram Panchayat, when analyzing the role of women in promoting organic farming, so would it lead to some overestimation of the exact effort taken by women in the promotion of this sector? Should you have also included in your study some mediocre performing organic farming sectors as well as some underperformers as well?
I can't get the questions once again. It is a lengthy question. That's why, okay, please ask once again.
The question was, you just took the example of the best performing organic farming Gram Panchayat. So would it lead to overestimation of the exact part played by women in promoting organic farming? Because in some other, because the reason why I posed this question is that perhaps in that Gram Panchayat, the reason why there's a huge success in organic farming was because of some specific administrative scheme implemented there. So there might be some external factors, external variables affecting this model. So did you incorporate those factors as well in your model? Or
okay,
should we have-
surely it's because there are so many external factors that is influenced to contribute that panchayat become an organic panchayat, because that government, under the local self-government, the panchayat level, Krishi Bhavans levels, and self-help groups are also take initiatives with their moderate aim was to become organic. They have a cooperative society for sale their products.
Okay, Satish. Just one more question for you. I don't know whether it's out of context, but we know the crisis recently faced by Sri Lanka. There's a huge food crisis shortage faced there, and many economists have pointed out that the reason for this was organic farming. Many claim it to be an unscientific way of farming, that though fertilizers do have their bad effects, scientific farming entails that such methods have to be employed, and a widespread organic farming can lead to acute food crisis. Do you subscribe to this point, or
yes,
do you have a different
surely.
opinion?
In the initial period, it is not become possible because of that. In the conventional period, the output shows that a decline trend. So we want to be concentrate our entire production is become organic. Then it should be reduce the shortage of the food prices. Not only in concentrating into a particular village, not only a particular district, in the entire state or entire economy, want to be take a decision to convert and a policy to convert organic methods, then it become efficient.
All right. So do you also have some comments about your fellow presenters, their papers? You can use this opportunity for that.
So, okay, so one of the excellent presentations, first presentation was very nice and excellent. The statistical tools adopted in the study was very interesting. The first one is that the substitution effect, the income effect, that is a pure microeconomic concept that is used by the scholar. It was very interesting. And final one is a case study. There should be incorporated all the relevant data. It was an excellent presentation. This time I use this opportunity to thanking all the staffs in the department to arranging this kind of an international seminar, and all the scholars and the research students thanking. This was an excellent presentation.
Thank you, Sajish. So I think that will be it. We have had 3 great presentations covering mostly different topics, and they all were very illuminating, and they were very lucid, and they were to the point. And I think now we can move on to the very last part of the session. And for that, I invite Parvati L for the formal vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have successfully winded up the 3rd session for today. My duty here is to formally thank the efforts of everyone who has made this session a success. I would like to thank the moderator of the session, Atul Joseph, beautifully carrying out the session. Diya Deep Anand for the welcome address. Thank you so much. Most importantly, I would like to thank the speakers of the session. Firstly, Shyamantak Chadyotpatye, CSSSC, Dr. Shubhanur Chowdhury, St. Xavier's University, for presenting a paper on female labor force participation in India, an empirical study. Secondly, Sajesh PV, St. Thomas College, Thrissur, and Dr. Sabu PJ, St. Thomas College, Thrissur, on the role of women for promoting organic farming through Kudumbashree Mission. And Muniraj K, University of Kerala, and Srijit JS, University of Kerala, on the nature and reason of expectation of female workforce, a case study of women tea plantation workers of KDHP in Munnar. A big heartfelt thank you to all the speakers who has touched up on a lot of existing issues prominent in our nation and imparting knowledge on various aspects. Sincere thanks to all the teachers, students, and well-wishers. Thank you for the cooperation and support. Thank you.
So with that, we have reached the end of this session. Again, a big thanks to all the participants, as well as the presenters, as well as all the other faculty and dignitaries who have joined in for this session. And we will have the next session soon. So please stay tuned in for that as well. Thank you everyone for your cooperation. And this session is ending now.